Hey guys, driving down the road and decided to make this video. And it's based off of a thought that I had the other night while Rasha and I were working on something that we're going to be presenting together here in the next little while. And it was a thought I've never really had before, and I actually called a couple preacher friends of mine, and they had never really even thought of it before. And so I did some more digging on it and found what I feel like is a good answer that I wanted to present to you guys. And it has to do with David and the Ark of the Covenant and the tabernacle. So to give you the context, you have to go back to the beginning of 1 Samuel when the priest Eli essentially loses the Ark of the Covenant in a battle with the Philistines that God did not sanction. So he did not tell them to take the Ark of the Covenant before them. They just kind of did it on their own. And they ended up losing the battle and losing the Ark of the Covenant. And you can preach that too. And so you go through the course of time, and then you see David becomes king many years later. He becomes king, and then he brings the Ark of the Covenant into the city of Jerusalem. And he puts it in a tent of his own creation. And I had never thought about the fact that the tabernacle was still set up in Shiloh. Why did he not take the Ark of the Covenant to its rightful resting place there in Shiloh? And I was doing some digging, and I was looking at it, and I realized what the Ark of the Covenant represented and what the tabernacle in Shiloh represented. Because you see, the Ark of the Covenant represented the presence of God, and the tabernacle represented the religion of God. Because you see, Jesus hadn't happened. Jesus hadn't come yet, so they were still having to go through, do the sacrifices, do all the things to have their relationship with God. And the presence of God was so important to David that he was like, I'm going to build a tent that I can have access to the presence more often than I can have access to the tabernacle. In fact, some scholars say that David spent over $1 million a year of his own money. This wasn't tax money, this was his own money. Spent $1 million a year caring for this tent that he put up to house the tabernacle, or to house the Ark of the Covenant, because he just cared that much about the presence of God. And so it got me thinking, why did he just not take it back to the tabernacle? And it goes to show you the value, or how much do we value the presence of God in our own personal lives. David was a man after God's own heart. Not that David did everything the right way the first time, but he still loved God, and he wanted to be in God's presence every chance he had. So he built a home for the presence of God with the tabernacle, or with the tent, and he would go and he would visit that tent as often as he could. And so the thought is, how much importance do we put on getting in the presence of God outside of the religion of God? If you love God, then there's some things you're going to do. Just like I love my spouse, I love my wife. And there's things I do just for her because I love her and I want to make her happy. And there's things that we do for God just because we love Him and we want to be in relationship with Him. But that's different than His presence. How much time do we spend worshiping, digging into His Word on our own time to just get into His presence? You say, well, why is it so important to get into His presence? Because it's in the presence of God is where you find freedom. Where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is liberty. Or where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is freedom. And it's His presence that brings that freedom, that brings the joy, that brings the relief from suffering that we all experience. So I just wanted to encourage you today to find time to get into His presence Will the religious things happen? Will you do them? If your heart is right, absolutely. The religious things will take care of themselves. But God is really after wanting to spend time with you and wanting you to be in His presence, not just His religion. So, hope that helps you today, and we'll see you next time.